Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson along with Andrew Bone. New commitment for the Alabama Crimson Tide. This time it is Elijah Pritchett here with Andrew Bone to break it all down. 6'7", 290 pounds. Alabama adding a big boy to this class out of the state of Georgia. Bone, take it away.
Yeah, if you hear that buzzsaw outside my house, sorry about that. Got some work going on today,
The
but
bus
yeah,
stop was Alabama. I mean,
you think so? Bama just took the buzzsaw to Florida State in this win for Elijah Pritchett, but obviously a big pickup for Alabama, getting 6'7", 295-pound offensive tackle on board in Pritchett. This is a big win. We knew going into the season that it was a tight race between Alabama and Florida State. There were some other schools that were involved, Georgia, USC, but he ended up not taking a visit over to USC this month as he was originally planning on after Clay Helton was fired. But he did take a visit to Athens, and he also visited Tallahassee. He was in Tallahassee for that game against Notre Dame when obviously everyone was saying Florida State's back. They are, they're a hot team now. Second year head coach, Mike Norvell, bringing the heat, certainly turning the program around. Then bam, 3 losses in a row. So it's been a tough few weeks for the Seminoles, and they took another loss today with Elijah Pritchett announced his commitment to Alabama, which it doesn't really surprise me. There was a lot of people talking about Florida State and how they were in the driver's seat for him. I just never bought that. He visited Tuscaloosa several times, was at the 8A game with his family, and this is back before the dead period ended. So he just came over on his own, was at the game, didn't even get a chance to talk to the coaches, saw the campus and, walked around, got comfortable with everything. And then, had been in contact with the coaching staff throughout the summer, throughout the fall, visited for his official visit back in June, and then attended the Champions Cookout in late July. So he visited Tuscaloosa several times, and then visited for the Mercer game, even though not a big game. Still an opportunity for him to come to Tuscaloosa, spend some more time with the coaching staff. And I remember when I interviewed him back, I guess it was back in July, after that visit for the cookout. He told me, he said, Alabama's different because I have a better relationship with players who are committed and players on the team than I do anywhere else. He's like, he said that, a lot of those guys felt like friends. So when he told me that, I felt like, this guy's going to Alabama. He wants to be somewhere where he feels comfortable, where he already has relationship with players, with other players who are currently committed. So I always felt like Alabama was in good shape there. And we also had heard, good things about his family, really pushing Alabama and them leaning towards Alabama. Of course, not pushing him to go to Alabama, but if he were to decide Alabama, they were 100% on board. So huge pickup today. This is a big kid. 6'7", 295 pounds, plays left tackle for his high school team, and is very dominant. And I'm interested to kind of see where he ends up once he gets to Alabama, because there's some, obviously some really good, talented players that are on the team right now. And they've got a great class going on in this 2022 class with guys like now Elijah Pritchett, Tyler Booker, and Dane Shore. So that offensive line here in the future, Doug Marrone's got to be pretty ecstatic about the group that he's going to have in that offensive line room.
Bone, I have a couple questions, and if you're just joining us, Elijah Pritchett has committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Definitely the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Bone, when you talk to these prospects, and specifically the offensive linemen, what is their feedback on speaking with Doug Marrone, and what have we learned about him as a recruiter?
Just a great personality. Been around a lot. Has been a head coach, coached in the NFL, coached a lot of great players. I think the biggest thing, just from talking to different recruits, is just him coming from the NFL and having that NFL background and knowing what it takes to get to that next level. So they really like that a lot. A lot of them, he's not really big on social media. You're not going to see Doug Marrone tweeting every time a kid makes a decision or liking every post, but he keeps it pretty real in terms of talking to these guys via phone calls, via FaceTime, text messages. He kind of does it the old school way, unlike just doing it on social media. So he's really developed a great relationship with a lot of these guys, and it's a big reason why Alabama has even after last year signing what we all believe is one of the best offensive line classes of all time, going into this year, everybody thought it was going to be kind of difficult for Alabama to reel in these elite offensive linemen after last year's class, but he's been able to do that. And I think the staff's done a tremendous job. Charles Kelly led the recruiting efforts with Elijah Pritchett, but Doug Marrone, obviously, being the offensive line coach, had a big hand in it, and so did Nick Saban. And I think that's kind of the big thing with a lot of these guys. You're getting recruited by your position or by your area recruiter, by your position coach, but Nick Saban also personally invested in certainly making sure these guys feel like a top priority. And from day one, we've been talking about guys like Tyler Booker and Elijah Pritchett as two of Alabama's premier offensive line targets, and now they got both of those guys on board along with Dane Shore. So great offensive line class. I'm really interested to kind of see who's going to be that next one in the offensive line class. Are they potentially done, or could they get another one? I think that's everybody's question right now. And they're still recruiting some guys. There's still a few guys out there that are going to come in for official visits. Does that mean they're going to get them? Not necessarily, but they are still going to be recruiting some guys. Julian Armella, who's a 5-star out of St. Thomas Aquinas down in Fort Lauderdale, plans on visiting for that LSU game. You also have Keontae Goodwin, 4 or 5-star on whatever site you decide to look at. He's a big time offensive tackle that's currently committed to Kentucky. Says his commitment is firm, but is going to take all of his official visits. And there's still a few other guys that may come in for visits throughout the year. Devon Campbell, who is a 5-star guard out of Texas, is going to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend for an official. I don't really see him in Alabama's class just yet. If I were to pick where Alabama is on the pecking order on his list, I'd probably say probably number 5. But let's see how the visit to Alabama goes this weekend. See if they possibly move up and become a contender. But obviously, I think Alabama's offensive line class is pretty daggone good at the moment with the guys that they have.
Here with Andrew Bone talking about Elijah Pritchett, who has just committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Bone, what is the early feedback from prospects that have attended games at Bryant-Denny? Because remember, the 2020 season didn't allow recruits to be on campus. And as you can see, in my opinion, the most magical place is to be at Bryant-Denny Stadium, especially under the lights. I mean, look at the facilities, look at the lights right there. What has been the early feedback? I've seen Miss Terry too. She looks like the lead recruiter with some of these guys. I was trying to pull up a photo because I saw Miss Terry and Jeremiah Alexander, I think. So, Miss Terry, she's as you saw in the football live, Miss Terry's all in it.
That's right. You got Nick Saban's one of the best recruiters in the history of college football, but he'll probably give some credit there to his wife, Miss Terry, is also being a big help. So she does a great job just developing relationships with the kids and their families, throughout the process. And, I think she makes, especially the families, the moms feel comfortable when they, step on campus and, they're going to leave their kid, if they decide to go to Alabama, and this is going to be their family for the next, 3 or 4 years and obviously to, the rest of their lives. But, the feedback we've gotten so far from different recruits has been great. Obviously not really some big games so far in Tuscaloosa, Mercer, Southern Miss. Feedback's probably going to be a little bit different after this Ole Miss game. But I had an interesting conversation with the father of A.J. Harris's dad. A.J. Harris is the number 1 cornerback prospect in the 2023 recruiting class. Mm-hmm. They ended up coming to town this past weekend for the Southern Miss game. And I thought it was kind of interesting. Why pick Southern Miss when you could potentially come in, for an Ole Miss game, come in for the LSU game, which – still might. They also mentioned they're probably going to come back for the Tennessee game here in a few weeks. But they picked the Southern Miss game because they wanted to go to a game where there wasn't going to be a lot of people in terms of a lot of recruits. They were going to have an opportunity to spend a little bit more time with the coaching staff. But they also wanted to see what is a place like Alabama like when it's not a big game. When they're playing a out of conference opponent that isn't going to be ranked, a team like Southern Miss or a team like Mercer or somebody like that. They wanted to see what it's like. And they said, we were absolutely blown away by the amount of fan support just for the Southern Miss game. I mean, Alabama was, what, 50-point favorites against Southern Miss this past weekend. So they were absolutely blown away. They loved it. They said we can't imagine what it's like for a bigger games, which they're probably going to see here in the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean the feedback's been great. Obviously, some big recruits have come in. Elijah Pritchett attended the Mercer game, ends up committing to Alabama. Now we saw some big recruits like A.J. Harris. Jaden Wayne, who was the number 12 overall player in the country out of the state of Washington, visited with his family this past weekend. He absolutely loved it, and I think Alabama's certainly a top contender for him. But yeah, the feedback's been great, especially being a night game this past weekend. I know the recruits really like that, really like the lights and all that stuff. So it's been good. So it's going to be even better after this weekend with Ole Miss.
All right, Bone, before we wrap it up, and thank you very much for watching. We'll still have our regularly scheduled recruiting show on Tuesday night with Andrew Bone and Trey Yanity. So definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Before we dive into that, Bone, just give us a quick assessment of this class as it's coming together as we enter the month of October.
We always tell everybody, just be patient. The class is going to work out how it should. Obviously there's going to be some guys that they miss on, but there's going to be a lot of hits. And they've certainly gotten some big time players in this class so far. And they get another one in Elijah Pritchett. There's still some guys that are out there that they heavily want, but a lot of those guys haven't visited this football season yet. They're waiting for this weekend, or for Tennessee, or for LSU. They're waiting a little bit later on in the season so they can get back to Tuscaloosa. I certainly think, especially with the way things are going for some of these schools, Florida State, Elijah Pritchett probably on the fence with Alabama and Florida State. They end up starting the season 0-4. He ends up going to Alabama. You look at USC. What's gonna happen with some of the recruits out there who are currently committed after Clay Helton was fired? And, obviously we saw Oregon State blow out the Trojans this past weekend. So I'm not sure, the interim coach is going to be able to keep that job in Dante Williams. But, Michael Williams is a 5-star from Georgia, defensive end. Yeah, I would say there's probably a better chance of him flipping somewhere else than any of their other commitments right now, just because he's all the way in the state of Georgia. I think he's going to take an official visit to Alabama at some point. Domani Jackson, who's a 5-star defensive back committed to USC, he's going to take an official visit to Alabama for that LSU game. So we know what's happening right now at places like USC and Florida State. What's going to happen at maybe some of these other schools where they potentially lose out on some recruits because of their season. We're just going to have to kind of wait, see how the season unfolds. But that's why we always say, just wait till the season gets here. Let kids step foot on campus. You know what you're going to get with Alabama. And then, obviously, things get affected at other schools when teams start losing games, big games, small games, losing to FCS opponents and stuff like that. Coaches getting fired, assistant coaches having to, deciding to move on. There's so many things that go on during the season that can completely change the landscape of the recruiting class. So just be patient. It's gonna be interesting to kind of see how it all unfolds over the next few months. But Alabama's certainly going to be in the mix for that #1 recruiting class once again.
Well, good stuff, Bone. And again, you can catch our regularly scheduled recruiting show on Tuesday nights right here on our Bama Insider YouTube channel. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like and subscribe. Go to BamaInsider.com. Tons of recruiting coverage every single day. You get to interact with Andrew Bone. I know he doesn't stop. He's posting at 2, 3 in the morning now that he's got a little baby. So, it doesn't stop on BamaInsider.com. Elijah Pritchett is in for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We'll be back on another video coming soon, coming your way right here on BamaInsider.com.